Welcome to AETCM, the Emergency Medicine channel. Today we will be discussing a case of spinal trauma. Can we begin, sir?
Yes.
A 51-year-old male presented to ER with Alleged history of RTA with a two-wheeler. It was a skid and fall. Patient was a non-helmeted rider, lost control over his bike, sustained head injury around 8:30 p.m. in the night. Our initial assessment, a primary survey, going with airway maintenance with C-spine protection. Airway-wise, the patient had a patent airway as the patient was able to talk in one full sentence. There was no gurgling of sounds, stridor, fallen tongue, no hoarseness of voice, pooling of secretions seen. There was no foreign body, loosened teeth, or any distended neck veins or tracheal shift or laryngeal crepitation was present. Now, talking about the C-spine protection, patient C-spine was maintained with a Philadelphia C collar, which was applied from outside, and spine board was placed. Now, moving to breathing and ventilation, patient had a symmetrical chest movement with bilaterally air entry being equal with adequate chest rise. Heart respiratory rate was around 17 cycles per minute, maintaining a saturation of 98% in room air. There was no crepitations or rhonchi heard. Circulation and hemorrhage control wise, patient had a heart rate of about 72 beats per minute, maintaining BP of 120/80 millimeters per mercury. The extremities were warm, all peripheral pulses were palpable, normal skin appearance and no active bleed seen. Then 2 large bore IV cannulas were secured. Moving over to the disability wise, GCS was full with 15/15 score, E3, V4, E4, V5, M6. Pupils were bilaterally symmetrically reactive to light with a size of 2.5 millimeters each. Exposure wise, there was no life threatening limb injuries seen, and the patient was covered to protect hypothermia, maintained a temperature of 98.6 degree Fahrenheit and had blood sugars of 130 milligram per deciliter.
What about the pain score?
The pain score was around 4 to 5, sir, over 10. So,
Your primary survey is everything is patent.
Yeah.
You don't have any intervention at that time.
At that point in time, no, sir. His disability wise, he only had like quadriparesis was seen, but otherwise, no actively anything to be done. So there was no external bleeding or hemorrhages spotted anywhere.
Okay,
And
when you present a trauma case, what you have to tell something about mechanics of trauma. Then only we will come to know about the velocity of injury and impact of injury. What is the mode of injury and how these things happened?
Okay, so the patient was a non-helmeted bike rider. When he lost control over his bike, riding at a speed of around 60 to 70 km per hour, and then since he was taking a turn when he skid and fell, and his bike came rolling down the hill, so it was around like a fall from about 5 feet height. So this is how the accident occurred.
And which part of his body received the impact?
It was majorly his upper back and neck, sir. There was a few brief minutes of loss of consciousness, but patient spontaneously regained consciousness. There was just one episode of vomiting, which vomiters contained just food particles, no blood or anything seen, no ENT bleed as such, or no history of seizures.
Okay.
What all urgings do you want here?
Since it's a trauma patient, so we first went ahead with the EFAST to rule out any solid organ or any solid organ injury. EFAST wise, the patient had bilaterally lung sliding signs were present, so pneumothorax was ruled out in that way, and USG FAST was negative. So then we moved on to, we parallelly took an ABG which showed no acid base derangement. pH was 7.38, PCO2 36.2 and bicarb of 23.4.
Why do you want the APG? What are you afraid here?
If at all the patient has lactate levels can be high, so ABG wise you can check on lactate, or
why do you expect the lactate level to be high?
When there is any ongoing internal bleed, hemorrhage can cause ischemia, can cause lactate or patient if at all airway is compromised and the patient has hypoxia or there is altered level of consciousness, hypercarbia, all these levels. This is why ABG is used in trauma.
In this case, you are suspecting a patient with quadriparesis. And what important vital thing are you afraid here?
So, since it's a quadriparesis, a cervical trauma can cause a respiratory.
Respiratory rate of around 15 to 16.
So
a trauma patient with a pain score of around 5 to 6. Do you expect to have an increase in tachypnea?
So because it's a cervical trauma and the patient has obvious quadriparesis, our dreaded complication would be a respiratory paralysis because the diaphragm is supplied from a A of C3 to C5. So possibility of him having a respiratory failure is high, which is why again lactate levels,
ABG,
hypoxia, hypoxemia, all that has to be ruled out.
What all will be the finding?
If at all the patient has respiratory failure because of failure of diaphragm contraction, there can be a PCO2 buildup, hypercarbia can be seen, hypoxemia can be seen, lactate levels, lactic acidosis can also be seen on the ABG. So after FAST and ABG, ECG had no obvious finding, like it was normal sinus rhythm. Chest X-ray wise, patient had a right clavicle fracture.
Okay. After you have done primary survey assessment and adjuncts, can you sum up your primary survey and adjuncts, whatever you have done till now?
Okay. So when the patient arrived, C-spine collar was, Philadelphia collar was placed, patient was on spine board. So airway wise he was...
from the spot by whom? EMS or any ambulance services?
It was the...
They went to some other hospital where they put the collar.
So from the site of accident to the... He was taken to the nearest hospital.
That is more important.
Wherein
You are
he...
telling about readily waiver. Who will be having a collar at the scene? Okay, that means either an ambulance squad might have met the patient and then taken care of, or he might have been taken to a nearby hospital where they could have suspected and put the collar. Okay.
So from there, airway was maintained, spine was protected with the collar. Breathing wise, he was having a respiratory rate of 15 and maintaining saturation itself in room air, so there's no indication for this one.
Primary survey. Dr. Vivek is asking what's the inference. What do you suspect at the end of the...
Okay, so here we have a patient with a suspected cervical call injury with quadriparesis.
Okay, one more again. So in this case, there is definitely quadriparesis. So what's the criteria that you usually apply when you are suspecting a cervical injury?
For radiological imaging, sir?
Yes, sir.
There are two popularly used imaging criteria. One would be the Nexus criteria. The other one would be a Canadian C-spine criteria. According to the Nexus criteria, there are like 5 points that we have to take in care, of which anything turns positive, it's an indication for a radiographic imaging. So out of it would either patient should have like a posterior midline tenderness or any distracting injury or patient's altered consciousness or any neurological deficits, and if the patient should not be in intoxicated state. So the other one would be a Canadian, this would be the Nexus criteria. So the other one would be a Canadian C-spine rule, wherein three major points are seen. One, age has to be more than 65 years, or any high impact injury like fall more than 1 meters, one of more than 1 meter or 5 feet height, or it's a heavy vehicle injury, dangerous mechanism of injury. And any paresthesias to be seen, like if at all the patient complains of any paresthesias. So this would be these would be the high risk criteria, and if at all patient has any of this, we move on to the imaging. But if at all the patient does not have any of this, then we move on to the next set of things that we have to look into, like if the patient is able to sit, or if he is ambulatory, sit in the ER, or if he is ambulatory at any point in time, or if it's a low impact injury. Then
low impact injury is not there. If the patient is
simple
sitting
behind.
While the time of accident he was sitting behind back seat, then we can consider to be safe.
If any of this is there, then there is no indication for radiography. But if at all it is there, then again radiographic. But if this is ruled out, the last set would be to see if the patient neck rotation is between 45.
Second set of test, like the one if the patient is sitting in the back side, or the patient is able to walk, if the patient is having a spine tenderness which appears at a delayed time, and in such factors, if any of this is present, then we don't need a radiological imaging. We can go for next assessment of movement. If any of this, none of this is present, then we
Move on
should
to
go
the
for
next set.
imaging. It's actually negative history. Some amount of negative history is the second test that is involved in Canadian C-spine row.
The last one would be the neck rotation, 45 degrees. If the patient is able to move, then no indication. If not, if he's not able to move, is when we go again with imaging.
Okay. This is regarding the cervical injury criteria. So for our patient, he has a indication in both these criteria.
Yes.
So definitely he will require imaging also, but it will be coming under the secondary survey, right? Okay.
So moving on to the secondary survey part, patient, when we are talking about the signs and symptoms, patient did complain of having paresthesia.
Secondary survey, the LCT history.
Ample history.
History when will you
The signs and symptoms and ample history. No, sir.
Pardon?
Signs and
I
symptoms.
said to know what is the ample history. Okay.
Yeah. Signs and symptoms. Signs
Can-
and
can-
symptoms.
can.
So, in the signs and symptoms, when you're talking about it, patient complained of having pain upon movements in all the forelimbs, and paresthesia was present in all the forelimbs. Predominantly, he complained of having less power in the upper limbs than in the lower limbs. And moving on, he had no drug allergy history, and medication wise, he has like a past history of bronchial asthma, so the patient was on inhalers. And last meal was lunch at the time of lunch on the same day, like time of accident wala day, around 2 p.m. Accident occurred at 8:30 p.m. in the night. Patient's last meal was 2 p.m. of the same of that day.
Yeah.
Then events like we just discussed, it was an allergy history of RTA. Patient was a non-helmeted bike rider. When he lost control over his bike, had a fall from about 5 feet height, and sustained head injury with brief minutes of loss of consciousness, one episode of vomiting with vomitus containing just food particles, and no ENT bleed or seizures were seen. Noted. Then we moved on to the head and neck, head to foot examination. In head, there was no obvious bleed or any anatomical deformity. No external injuries as such was seen. There was no sign of basal skull fracture, no loosened teeth or injury to the eye. Although there was one sutured laceration seen over the forehead. That's about it. No other injuries. In C-spine, patient had was complaining of neck pain, but tenderness was also elicited in the spinal level, somewhere of between C3 to C5 level, spinal level. Patient had tenderness, but there was no any penetrating or blunt injuries as such seen. There was no obvious deformity and tracheal shift, nothing of that sort was seen. So moving on to the neck, no distended neck veins or laryngeal crepitation was present. Chest-wise, patient had no chest tenderness, no contusions or abrasions or lacerations. Auscultation-wise, no rhonchi or crepitation. Movement, chest-wise, all that was fine, sir. So abdominal, again, no signs of blunt or penetrating injury, no tenderness or guarding seen. Bowel sounds were present. Then pelvic compression test was negative. Now moving on to the musculoskeletal system, there was restriction of movement at the right shoulder along with tenderness present and swelling. And then paresthesias that he complained of, and power wise, upper limb had a power of 3/5 while lower limb was around 4/5. Then bulk was good, tone was reduced in all the 4 limbs. Sensation wise, paresthesia was present predominantly again in upper limbs more than lower limbs. Variable.
We were not able to appreciate any sensory level.
No, sir. Sensory level as such, dermatome wise, couldn't quite. It was variable, sir.
Variable. So he was able to have a sensation at the
Yeah,
lower
touch
limb.
and touch. That was present, sir.
Both dorsal column and lateral column both are intact.
Touch in dorsal column wise, pain in the anterior lateral spinothalamic area. That part we checked. So temperature, although we didn't really assess, but pain and touch we were
So
things
if
that we assessed.
motor deficit, you can intact the sensor.
Paresthesia, variable sensations. Sometimes he says he feels, sometimes he
It's
doesn't.
suspecting only corticospinal tracts are involved.
Yes, majorly.
No ascending tracts are involved. What about reflexes?
Reflexes were present, so brisk. Reflexes were present. It wasn't absent. Reflexes were present.
Exaggerated? No.
No. Normal reflexes were there.
Reflexes were present.
Bilaterally, lower limbs. So this was then log rolling wise. When we examined the back, there was no obvious bleeding or laceration seen, and thoracic lumbar spine, no tenderness was found. And then we moved on again to the labs investigations, adjuncts to secondary survey, sir, wherein CT brain and CT spine showed CT brain had no bleed and CT spine had no obvious fracture, but they did complain of having a disc bulge seen in C5 to C6. So because we were suspecting quadriparesis, we went ahead with an MRI to find out, and the MRI report was suggestive of multi-level posterior disc bulge from C3 to C5, resulting in spinal canal stenosis with cord edema, soft tissue edema along the posterior elements of cervical spine. This was the MRI finding. Lab investigations, it was grossly normal, sir.
Okay, so how do you want to manage this patient? So here, now if you are suspecting a disc bulge and it is causing secondary
Cord edema.
cord edema and paresthesia and quadriparesis. So how do you want to manage for?
So considering the pattern with which the patient has presented, it mostly looks like a central cord syndrome. So since the power is lost more in the upper limbs than in the lower limbs, along with variable paresthesias.
You get a weakness in which upper limb weakness is more compared to lower limb.
So anywhere in that spinal cord, wherever there is a central cord, basically the arrangement of the fibers would be CTLS, that is cervical first, then thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. So if at all patient has syringomyelia or
Like in trauma, be specific to trauma.
hyperextension of the neck can cause, basically if it's a central cord syndrome, hyperextension of the neck can cause, or any cord edema from the
What are
can
the
cause.
other cord syndromes that you are aware of?
There is
That you suspect in case of trauma.
anterior cord syndrome can be.
In anterior cord syndrome, what happens?
Anterior cord syndrome, again there will be paraplegia with bilateral loss of pain and temperature, and
Will be intact.
sorry,
What will be intact?
dorsal column touch and
means-
proprioception will be intact. Touch, proprioception, vibration will be preserved. Bilateral pain and temperature will be affected along with paraplegia.
In which patient you expect anterior cord syndrome?
Again, thoracic lumbar spinal injuries, you can have anterior cord syndrome.
Mechanism. You
Hyperextension,
said in
flexion,
central cord syndrome, you are expecting an hyperextension.
extension. Here again it will be any distracting injuries, hyperflexion again can cause thoracic.
Okay, we confirm it later. Next, other syndromes that you know.
Posterior cord syndrome.
Here what happens?
Here the dorsal columns will be affected, wherein touch and proprioception will be lost, but other sensations will be intact.
Next.
Then there will be a penetrating Brown-Sequard syndrome, that is like a hemisection of the spinal cord, wherein ipsilateral motor loss will be there and contralateral pain and temperature would be gone.
Ipsilateral, anything will be preserved?
Dorsal column touch proprioception will be preserved.
Preserved. Okay. Anything else?
Then conus medullaris
Complete transit.
complete. Depending on the levels, it can either be complete paraplegia or incomplete or complete spinal cord injury. So again, there will be like paraplegia or quadriplegia depending upon the level of cervical cord injury. If at all it is a cervical cord, it will be diplegia. If it is thoracic lumbar, it will be paraplegia. Depending on that level, it will again be there.
Okay, what will be the dermatome level then? Corresponding to nape of neck, axilla, nipple, umbilicus.
So if it is the nipple level, it will be T4, xiphisternum T8, umbilicus will be T10, then symphysis pubis will be around T12. This would be the levels. So.
Then any other syndrome you are missing?
So conus equinus medullaris can also occur, but that will be again down at the level of if at all the injury has impacted T12 or L1 area, is when conus medullaris, or anything below that would be conus equinus syndrome. You can find quadra equina will be seen, where again you have urinary incontinence, sacral sparing, asymmetrical sensation loss, saddle anesthesia, all that will be seen.
Those things will be more for differential involvement, bladder involvement, those things will be more for
medullaris. No, equina it will be more predominant.
Okay. How will you manage this patient?
So this patient, since he has come with a cervical, our major life threatening would be to make sure that his respiratory function is preserved. Hence RSI has to be planned, kept in mind, just in case the patient desaturates or anything. And second, since it's a trauma patient, hemorrhage has to be kept in mind. Frequent reassessment of ABC has to be done to make sure that the patient is maintaining saturation and heart rate and pulse rate. And then pain itself has to be a priority to manage pain.
Okay, what pain medication have you given for this patient?
Since the patient had only around 4 to 5 and was not complaining much of pain except upon movements.
4 to 5 is pain, right?
4 to 5 over 10.
Yes.
So that would be, pain.
It is in moderate pain.
Yeah, moderate pain. So hence PCM along with the NSAID was given. So.
Okay.
In order to manage. NSAIDs. NSAIDs like ketorolac,
So what is the
tecoflenac.
main disadvantage of using NSAID in a trauma patient? What will happen to the bleeding, clotting, coagulation? Will it alter in any way?
It will prolong the.
Better avoid NSAIDs and such.
And any hypotension is going to cause any renal problem. It will be adding
burden to the kidneys.
Can we have spinal cord injury without any radiological imaging findings?
Yeah, sir. It's called as scevora. It's spinal cord injury without radiological abnormality, but it is predominantly seen in kids rather than in adults. And it's a transient phase, so the patient recovers spontaneously after a couple of days.
Okay, then now you said that there is associated edema in the MRI findings. What do you want to do about that?
So if at all the patient is presented to our hospital within 8 hours, then there's a role of steroids.
Yeah, this is within 8 hours. You told 2 hours incident happened and you have received the patient in 8:30.
8:30 is when the patient, so in that case we will go ahead with steroids, sir. In that case, methyl prednisolone at the bolus dose of 30 milligram per kg will be given, and 51 milligram per hour IV infusion over the next 23 hours will be initiated. 5.4. Not 5.4.
So, okay, in case if you want to, you are saying this is a patient with suspected spinal injury. In case he is deteriorating and he is having desaturation or worsening sensorium and or his ABG is worsening, so what do you want to do with it?
Then without a second thought, we'll go ahead with an intubation. RSI would be performed, so because we don't want to take our chances.
So what's the difference than you do in a regular RSI?
Your inline stabilization should be there, no, sir. That would be a major difference between the regular RSI
How will you
and
perform? You tell that.
Inline, one person will be standing either at the back, and they will stabilize the patient's head and neck with both hands. I'll stretch both hands and stabilize it, and then with minimally, very quick intubation will be done, sir, with inline stabilization.
Inline stabilization you will do, then what maneuvers you will avoid?
Head lift, chin
You
lift
tell everything.
position. Jaw thrust, head lift, head tilt, chin lift, jaw thrust, all these maneuvers will be avoided. Anyway, basically the idea is to immobilize the cervical spine. So any movements will be best avoided, should be best avoided.
Jaw thrust you
Jaw
can
thrust,
keep.
yeah.
Head tilt and chin lift.
Head
you should
tilt,
do.
head tilt and chin lift.
Not supposed to.
Anything else regarding airway management? One is avoiding the manual
Mm.
head tilt, any other thing. So pre-oxygenation there, and then selection of drug is there. Before that, the airway assessment is there. So step by step kind of is what will be there. As is asking about, suppose you want.
Sir, for that we'll have to keep in mind since it's a trauma patient, difficult airway has to be kept in mind, which is why we will rule out any loosened teeth, any pooling of secretions, any anatomical deformities seen due to any facial fractures. All this will be reassessed, and then his vitals are again reassessed to see if the patient is tachycardic, bradycardic, hypotension has kicked in. If the patient is hypotensive, then all these things will be taken into consideration, and depending upon this, our drug selection will be there. So let's just say if the patient is bradycardic or hypotensive, then ketamine. But then again, since a head trauma patient, any agents that increases ICP should also not be used. So adjacent
Adjacent and associated
injuries, all that. So
do you suspect this is a high velocity or significant mechanism of injury or non-significant?
it is significant.
Then
So
we have to
Rule out.
the cerebral brain, everything. Okay,
Mm.
that we have to keep in mind whenever integration is discussed. Why do you want to be concerned about the head injury part here?
I didn't get you, sir.
No, why do you are concerned about the head injury part when you are planning for an RSI?
Because we want to avoid ICP, sir, raised ICP.
So there may be already increased intracranial pressure, so first precaution is you have to take it.
Mm.
Number two, in such cases you are going to give only jaw thrust. How long can you manage with jaw thrust? Pre-oxygenation. Then what will be the next steps?
I don't know for how long it
No,
will.
there are airway adjuncts, there are supraglottic airway devices, so which one is better?
So if
So
you're
you
going
can
with
go
a
for
definite,
pardon?
if you're going for definite, it will be an endotracheal intubation,
Okay,
sir.
definitely. So I am
Otherwise-
concerned about the pre-oxygenation part and planning part.
In the planning part, OPAs, NPAs can be used with bag and mask ventilation.
Head injury we are suspecting, do we put OP unless we...
No, a basal skull fracture was ruled out. No, so no signs of basal skull fracture. Only then we go ahead with it. If at all it is there, then it is best avoided. If there are any raccoon, battle sign, all of this is there, then it's best avoided. But in this patient, since
It is
we didn't
avoided,
really-
not best, it is
It
avoided.
is avoided. Okay, sir.
So which supraglottic airway device will be ideal for
Back
Supraglottic.
supraglottic
the
could be
role of supraglottic device?
laryngeal mask.
Where it will go and where it will sit.
Laryngeal.
Can go
It
from
will go and directly press over the cervical vertebra itself.
Mm.
You have to insert. So the supraglottic airway devices are contraindicated.
Contraindicated.
Okay. And more than that, whenever you are inflating, while insertion, inflating the cup, it's a huge cup, that also will be causing pressure and move the cervical spine. Okay. So you have to anticipate any typical, see with the cricoid pressure, how long will you give in these cases? So what will happen, how will you give the cricoid pressure? During cricoid pressure there will be spine column movement also, so it should be avoided. Okay. Then regarding the perf, if you are not able to visualize the cardiac opening completely, you will be giving the perf.
Burp.
So this is permitted. Gently you can give it, there is no point. So you have to keep video laryngoscopy and everything. There may be limitation in visualization of the glottic opening with a direct laryngoscopy with a limited movement. Okay, so we can't able to properly place the head neck position, it is restricted. So we have to assess by which category, whether it is actually having any difficult intubation or not. Accordingly, you have to plan it. Yes. See, what is the level you told? Involvement in the service.
C3 to C5 disc bulge was
C3 to
3
C3 to C5.
C3.
disc bulge.
So in such cases, what
Accordingly.
are the other complications will occur in other systems of the body? Respiratory, cardiac,
C3,
GI,
uh,
and all other systems. The
C3
patient
to
is cardiac.
C3 to C5 is predominantly like it is phrenic nerve. These diaphragm, respiratory.
Diaphragm moving or not moving?
It doesn't move because
No,
phrenic nerve is the supply nerve supply for diaphragm, with the nerve root of C3 to
Compromised
C5.
respiration.
Yeah.
So we have to be prepared for giving an assisted ventilation.
Assisted.
Even in the perioxygen status, ventilated status will be assessed. You told about the rate and rhythm. You are not told about the adequacy of the ventilation. Directly you jump to the on room air, what is oxygen saturation. You have to completely. And in the adjacent structure, so there may be thoracic injury.
Injury and all
That we discuss, no problem about it. Then any other thing? See, airway, whenever you are in an accident case, you have smell the breath, maybe some odor of the alcohol.
Intoxication.
That may be giving a value. So in selection of the sedative agents, so overdoses may happen. You might have consumed half an hour before or 2 hours before. So we can titrate the doses of drugs. So we call it problem. And hemodynamic, neurological, whatever the things you have to keep in mind.
So-
Hemodynamic, imagine if the patient immediately goes into heart rate of around above 1 trachea is in tachycardia and his BP shooting up, then what do you suspect?
Raised IC.
Pardon?
Tachycardia, there will be hemorrhage,
Raised IC
Hem-
plus
bradycardia.
you are expecting
Sir-
Cushing's
sir-
reflex.
sir.
Here you are having tachycardia as well as hypertension.
Hemorrhage itself can cause tachycardia, anxiety, pain, all that can cause tachycardia in this
No,
patient.
you are in this is spinal cord trauma. You don't suspect anything else.
Autonomic dysfunction can cause sudden rise in vitals and then again sudden drop. It can vary like that. Autonomic dysfunction,
Which area of the spinal injury? I mean, which
lump, thoracic lump,
upper thoracic.
Upper thoracic.
upper thoracic.
What is neurogenic shock?
So neurogenic shock is where there will be like loss of vasomotor tone and sympathetic innervation to the heart. Now because of that, since there's a loss of vasomotor tone, there will be vasodilation, pooling of blood.
In what level
And-
of spinal cord injury it will happen?
Neurogenic shock.
These are the things you have to have a basic. Otherwise, you can't plan a better treatment. So this will lead to, these are all the problems we have to anticipate in every system. And based on the anticipation, we have to plan for. Okay. What will be the heart rate in this patient? It was tachycardia.
Mm.
And how it may be treated.
So
Heart rate.
Huh.
What may be the changes do you expect in heart rate, PP?
in neurogenic shock, so patient will have bradycardia and hypotension if neurogenic shock is setting in. Patient will
Why
have
it is happening? What is
that
it?
is because of peripheral vasodilation, return of venous return, S plus sympathetic innervation.
May causes only hypotension. So bradycardia happens.
Sympathetic innervation of the
So
heart.
autonomic, you told autonomic has
Autonomic.
got parasympathetic and
Sympathetic.
So sympathetic part is
Lost, so
lost.
which is why it
So
explains
overaction will be
bradycardia.
parasympathetic. So the
Okay.
patient will be going for
Bradycardia.
bradycardia and profound
Hypotension,
vasodilation.
profound.
How will it combat?
So
Yes,
in this fluid resuscitation has very little role to play. So vasopressors has to be
Fluid
resuscitation might
resuscitation,
not
one is that, okay.
might not improve the patient's condition. So the earliest usage of vasopressor is what is recommended. So
So pressure will only increase the vascular tone. Will it increase the heart rate?
I think it's dopamine.
Pardon?
Dopamine.
Dopamine. You should coming into vasopressor.
inotropic agents.
Inotropic drugs, okay. See, there are things, inotropic, chronotropic and then
Drone
vasopressors. Certain drugs only vasopressors. They will not have any action. Which drug will have both vascular action over the cardiac?
Anti.
Pardon?
Adrenal.
Noradrenaline, so she can have to. And then phenylephrine. So you will be having a direct vasopressor action only. So in order to combat, when you are planning for the RSA at any stage, just a movement of the patient, suddenly patient will collapse. See, what is the purpose of the sympathetic action? This is a natural protective mechanism. See, whenever there is hypotension, profound fall, it will increase the heart rate. And whenever the BP is low, it will try to bring it up. So this mechanism is totally lost. So already widening of the compartment, any portion, you just prop up the position or turn to the lateral side, even anything. So you have to immediately start and combat this one, and then you have to proceed for and keep it ready at least. So you are going to use the drugs which mostly may produce worsening of the condition. So what are the induction agents will you select?
If the patient is
So
bradycardic,
bradycardia, we can go for the atropine,
Ketamine.
double the dose. So normal dose sometimes may not work. And glycopyrrolate. Okay. Ephedrine, other choice. Slow doses. Okay. See, chronotropic and inotropic actions, we can go for the adrenaline, noradrenaline. Okay. Drug selection.
for induction agents, sir, if the patient is bradycardic, then
So pre-medication is
Intermediate.
mandatory. Bradycardia means you have to give. So once further worsening, the patient next stage will be cardiac arrest. We can't resuscitate. Okay. You try to give prophylactic measures and then proceed. Okay. Number one.
so etomidate can be used with
See, not only that,
dosages
the
of
hypoxia and hypotension, what will happen? The spinal cord. Secondary injury.
perfusion,
You have to
poor
take
perfusion.
care about the secondary injury which may follow the any hypoxic or hypotensive episodes. So we have to completely avoid. This will, if suppose the patient is having associated head injury, that also will be worsened. Okay. Next. Induction agents, what are the agents, which one you will prefer?
So
You have
etomidate can be
atropine or
used.
glycopyrrolate.
Etomidate can be used at the dosage. Etomidate can be used, sir, at the
Okay.
dosage of 0.3 milligram per kg, and ketamine can increase. Ketamine
Now
1
it
to
will be
2.
given any
Sorry,
pre-treatment drug. Etomidate alone will be using or any pre-treatment.
pre-treatment would be fentanyl.
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 Yeah.
And the dosage of-
Analgesic should be always combined with the etomidate.
Mm.
See, other choices regarding depending upon the BP, we can think of
Think
propofol.
ketamine at
But we
one
can't predict how already the patient may go for neurogenic shock or hypotension. Propofol may sometimes worsen. Okay. Then
Then
muscle
paralytic.
relaxants.
Muscle relaxants, rocuronium can be used. sir.
Pardon?
Rocuronium can be used.
The ideal choice is
When
succinylcholine. Because
Succin-
we are having anticipated difficult intubation also, but when will you avoid succinylcholine in trauma patients, especially spinal cord and all that. See, immediate trauma, there is no contraindication. See, more than 48 hours, then we have to definitely avoid succinylcholine. What is the advantage of rocuronium?
fast, rapid onset and early recovery.
And we have got the
Reversible.
Reversible Sugammadex.
Okay. So always have to keep all the hemodynamics and respiratory things for the patient. So the patient may definitely need positive pressure ventilation. Diaphragm is affected. So we have to take care of all these things. So what will be the effect on the GE system? The autonomic system is affected. GE system, the abdomen. After the organs person, what the things will happen?
So delayed gastric emptying,
Correct?
delayed
Delayed
gastric
gastric
emptying.
Ileus.
Mm.
Okay, everything because of this autonomic nervous system, this motility or lipidic. So the patient may be having chances of going for vomiting, aspiration, and other things. Okay. Electrolyte level.
Electrolyte.
Then do you expect any change in that?
If at all there is muscle injury, then hyperkalemia leading to rhabdomyolysis, all that increased. Mm.
Any electrolyte? Hyponatremia, renin-angiotension system, the autonomic imbalance, which is simply causing over the action of the kidney. So this will cause hyponatremia. So during every procedure of the movement of the patient, we have to be very careful. The patient can relax. And throughout we have to maintain the C-spine stabilization. And we have to always be ready with a video laryngoscopic integration. Don't compromise making more attempts to go up. Any other thing, sir? And bladder.
Catheterized.
Bladder. Does it need any intervention, bladder?
Yes.
What do you want?
Catheterization, monitoring urine output to see
Bladder
blood.
catheterization. Okay. What will happen? What is a good sedation for the hollow viscous distension, causing agitation, increase in by heart rate, BP? Hollow viscous distension will definitely produce the same effect as pain. What is the drug of choice? No drug, no sedative drugs, only decompression. You have to empty the. Okay, good. Otherwise, whatever turns out the sedation you are giving, only it will go for the complication. You will not be able to do it. Okay.
Okay.